Good morning, everybody. Narragansett Bay is about 50 miles from north to south. Providence is at its head, and halfway down is Aquidneck Island where Newport is. And it was in that area on this date, June 9, 1772, that a violent event happened that foreshadowed the coming of the Revolutionary War. This map shows some of the battle sites of the 7 Years' War, or what we call the French and Indian War. George Washington was a young officer in this war. And Britain was successful, but when the war was over, Britain had a lot of debt. And this chart reminds us of the various ways Parliament tried to get the colonists to pay for the war. The Sugar Act, the Stamp Act, and so on. These are familiar to most of us as we recall that history. We're less familiar with the Navigation Acts pictured here. These were passed by Parliament in the 1660s, various versions of them over the years, but basically it was Britain's attempt to control trade on the high seas to its own advantage with taxes and things like that. Jamaica is south of Cuba. You can see it on the map here. Jamaica was the jewel in the crown of the British Empire as far as money. It generated a lot of wealth. And one of the ways it did that was through selling rum. And a lot of rum was smuggled up into the colonies because the colonists didn't want to pay the fees and the taxes associated with the Navigation Acts. This is Narragansett Bay, where our story took place. You can see Providence at the north end of it and Newport at the south end. Perfect for smuggling. A lot of bays and inlets, hidden islands, easy to run away from the Royal Navy as it's looking for you, especially if you have a ship like this. This is a packet ship. They were small, they were very maneuverable, they were used for mail and small goods, but they were also used for smuggling. And the Royal Navy responded with a ship like this. This is the Gaspee, the ship of our story. So the Royal Navy would patrol all up and down Narragansett Bay and just stop ships of Americans and search them, and sometimes they were very abusive and very high-handed. Now this is the real charter from 1663, signed by Charles II. You can still see it in the State House in Providence. It's a wonderful historic artifact. But the charter gave Rhode Islanders quite a few rights, and they felt that their rights were being violated by all the stopping and searching that was going on in and around Narragansett Bay. So this is where our event happened. So on June 9, 1772, the Gaspee was pursuing a packet ship and ran aground here in what is now Warwick, Rhode Island. And the next morning, it was boarded by people from Providence. And there was a little scuffle. The captain was actually wounded, but all the crew and the captain were all forced off the ship, and then the ship was burned. Now, who did it? Well, one of the leaders of the Rhode Islanders was this man, John Brown. He and his brothers are associated with Brown University. They were also associated with the Sons of Liberty. This is not the John Brown of Harpers Ferry, Virginia, right before the Civil War. Same name, though. And nobody was ever convicted by the Brits. They could never find enough evidence. This is Gaspee Point today. It's on the National Register of Historic Places, and you may fly over this as you go in or out of T.F. Green Airport south of Providence. And in the middle of June, the town of Warwick puts on Gaspee Days, pictured here. So there'll be parades and all kinds of fun activities. But at the end of the festival, they do a mock burning of the Gaspee, pictured here, in one of the little coves there. So if you're ever in the Providence area in June, you may want to check out Gaspee Days. And if you're in Providence anyway, go to South Main Street and find this marker to the Sabin Tavern, where the Sons of Liberty met to talk about what they should do after the Gaspee went aground. So we often think of the beginning of the Revolution as this date, April 19, 1775, Lexington, pictured here. But a few years before, there was a warm-up down in Narragansett Bay.